Welcome back to Level Headed Gamer. My name is Joseph, and today I want to talk about Outriders, but not a tutorial or a guide or anything, but actually the state of the game. A lot of people have been criticizing the game for having all these bugs and the inventory wipes, and calling out to be kind of the biggest problem with the game, which I agree is a huge problem that needs to be fixed. Thankfully, I haven't encountered any inventory wipes on my playthroughs, but it is going to be very annoying for any player that has that kind of thing happen to him, or being worried about playing in crossplay all with your friends and worry that you're going to lose all your hundreds of hours of progress. That's absolutely ridiculous. But I actually don't think that's the biggest problem with the game. I think the problem with the game is the end game. Now, let me start with the fact that I think the game is absolutely fun. I love it from beginning to end. I'm not saying it's perfect. There's a lot of things I have issues with, whether it be, I think legendaries are too far in between. By the time you get to a point where you get them on a regular basis, it becomes less and less important to have them because you're near the end of the game. You're literally at the last expeditions, so to say. And once you get high enough in expeditions, the campaign itself, or where the world tiers are, the regular game itself, becomes kind of pointless to do because you don't get gear that's high level enough. You go back for farming materials, but that's about it. Like bounty hunts, everything really becomes useless. So you're relegated to expeditions and doing them because that's the only way you're going to first of all progress further in the game to the Eye of the Storm. You won't have to waste as many resources getting your gear up to par, and at the same time, that's where kind of the end game is. And I think it's a mistake for this game. I think what made Destiny so successful, what made Division, I think, so successful, is that they give you a plethora of options to play in the end game, where you can find your legendaries, where you can farm your gear, where you can do different kinds of things. Not to mention expeditions, and I'm going to say it flat out, as much as I think they are fun, they are a disappointment. They said there's unique mechanics to each of the expeditions, and they're so minimal that it's not worth even mentioning. It's not like a raid in Destiny where you really have to think things through, or it changes up the gameplay. You don't have to escort anything. You don't have to really protect anything. You just stand sometimes in circles and wait it kind of fills up so you can move on to the next area. And they're just big kill rooms. They're fun, don't get me wrong, but they're all the same in a sense. And I think that's where the biggest weakness for this game lies. The end game is kind of weak, especially if they think about this game have some longevity in general. I think it's the biggest weak point and the biggest problem this game has. And the reason I say that, and I'm not saying it's the bugs, because the bugs will get fixed eventually. But how about the end game? What are they going to do about it? Very rarely do you see a game restructure everything about it to introduce new elements so that the end game and other things are better. You can fix bugs. This requires a lot more work. Look at Anthem. Perfect example where there was no end game. The loot was uninteresting. They took years trying to fix it, and what happened? The game just got canceled. And I think it's the same thing here, and I think it's something to pay attention to and be vocal about with the developers. So when they develop future content, which I'm sure they will, the game, I think they got enough popularity in the player base where they're going to expand upon it, as long as we don't tear this game's ass apart completely. I know there's people go, it's like just kind of talking about how this game is, oh, it's absolute trash. I can't believe that I've lost my inventory. I get where they're coming from. But at the end of the day, we do have to be supportive because they are being receptive. They are communicative, unlike Marvel Avengers, where they would have to kind of disappear for months on end. And even with new DLC, I guess because it was introduced so late into the pipeline, doesn't really change the way the game plays. So for example, I'm done with Marvel Avengers. 2 DLCs down, it's exactly the same thing. I mean, the story was interesting, but it's slightly the same. It's basically the same thing. So I'm really have high hopes for Outriders. So they introduce new gear, new armor, new mechanics to the end game, and perhaps make the original game or the original campaign somehow worthwhile, even for veterans to redo, with higher world tiers and higher loot to chase, so that there's a reason to go back and a reason to do the bounty hunts. And I think it would really give you a lot more options, or make the hunts, a specific hunt opens up at world tier 15 that gives you even harder hunts that you didn't have before, where you have to fight 2 monsters at once, or something interesting for you to grind through. So expeditions are not the only way for you to get better gear and progress within the game. But that's just my opinion, guys. That's what I think, and I think the biggest problem is with this game, because I think in terms of crafting, it has to be my favorite system in the game. The way you can put mods and different things and experiment and make your builds absolutely just completely different just from what you have. You don't have to have the most amazing gear. And then when you put the legendaries on top of it, when I'm seeing other people doing, I have a couple legendaries myself. I don't have a lot of legendary armor yet, just because I'm actually moving to a new place, so there's a lot more stress on me right now to do that first. But I'll get back to the game to make sure I explore a lot more of the expeditions and get to the Eye of Storm. I'm on tier 14 at the moment. I'm almost all the way through, and I want to experience those legendaries. And I think it's a mistake for them to take so long to get to the legendaries, because people should be experimenting with them. They should be playing, and there should be content above that that absolutely requires legendary gear, because you cannot get past it. It's so hard and so difficult. And I've seen people beat Eye of the Storm with predominantly purples. So what's the point of legendary weapons besides the mods that they provide? I want the set bonuses to really matter. I want something unique about them that you can change, that would completely change up the way the game plays. And I think it would really give longevity to the end game for Outriders overall. I would love to hear from you guys though. What do you think? Do you agree with me, disagree with me? What's your point of view? The biggest weakness for this game, aside the bugs, we know that is an issue. That is a given. But within the gameplay, what would you want to be fixed up? What you want to be expanded on? What you want to be kind of delved into deeper, and have those systems kind of grow more? Would there be more weapons, more armor, more activities, reintroducing activities back into the main campaign to do something very different? I would love to hear from you guys, but I want to do something different, more of a discussion video today rather than just another tutorial or a piece of news. But let me know what you guys think, and make sure to enjoy the rest of your day. If you do enjoy this kind of content, make sure to subscribe down below. Have a good one, guys.